Welcome to another episode of Ballistic Autistic. My name is not going to be spoken because I am, like I mentioned in my first podcast, I am keeping this anonymous, and I don't. Hopefully, I don't, accidentally keep it in there by accident. Anyway, I'm actually just kind of excited to do this one because I decided to try and do more looking into my idea of like a the autistic commune for the weary lost boys souls or whatever, lost boys, I guess, for those that you know have a hard time with employment, just like the in between, so all the structure and stuff like that. It actually might be possible. So I'm looking more into that. Not just kind of made me super excited, and it just kind of got me thinking along the other lines. um you know Thinking more about like my autism and growing up. I thought I'd touch on kind of like my experience, especially when autism was brand new, specifically talking about, being medicated. Because it really bums me out when, I can't remember which foundation. I think it's either Autism Speaks or I think that's like the big one that's like basically thinks they're looking for the cure for autism. And I know there's going to be different camps, obviously, with any niche, uh, niche subgroup, and there are different ideas of how things should function. Like me personally, I know if I had a cure for my autism, I would definitely go for it. I mean, I'm not sure how different I would personally be. Maybe I'd be more, gun ho about certain things. Maybe I'd be better organized. Maybe I'd be, you know, uh, better at housekeeping. I mean, I'm not the most tidy person. Like, thank God my wife, she doesn't love cleaning, but she also kind of loves cleaning. And I try my best. Like, I definitely does way better when she like gives me a list to do. Um, I just like I almost feel like I don't know where anything is ever in my house. Like, she organizes everything, so it's like, oh, I don't know where this stuff is. So it's like, hey, it's over here. So like, I do way better with the guidance of my wife, thank God. So, but like, how different would I be if there was a cure for autism? And I understand like there's definitely parents that definitely want that for their kids, especially those again at the lower functioning side that that will down the line have a hard time finding employment, have a hard time finding a spouse, have a hard time just finding friends and keeping friends and not being taken advantage of and being preyed on by who knows what kind of worldly deviance. I mean, you never know, what people are capable of until, you hear and read a story. I mean, look at what that whole Netflix series that or not Netflix series, Netflix movie Cuties. Like that's just like I I'm not even going to touch on that. That's an episode and a rant and a half. My stance on it, they had no forethought in realizing you're abusing kids to show that abusing kids is wrong. You're taking advantage of them. I mean, you did. You had them dance like strippers. You recorded it. You edited it to look very sexually provocative, saying that this is all about. It's all about, uh, you know, how girls are taken advantage of in sexual life, but and it's also supposed to be. I don't know. It's such a mess. It really is, that whole movie, and Netflix losing what was it, nine? No, not even 9 million. I think like 9 billion through their stocks. So I mean, and then it turns out like they literally have like a pedophile guy screening the stuff, and like pedophiles working for Netflix. I don't know. I have to do more research into that because it's just like crazy how that's just churned it's Netflix upside down. One single movie. And when I heard about the preview and the marketing, it's like, okay, my initial thought was, I mean, my hot take was like, oh, it's just bad marketing. I mean, that was definitely like that poster was. They definitely need to apologize for the poster. Like that was ridiculous. I like World of Dance. I watch World of Dance with my wife and there's kids, but like they definitely were never as skimpy or as revealing as those girls in the poster for Cuties. But I mean, at the same time, they're also still sometimes very tight clad clothes. So, but they definitely, it seems they could definitely cross the line. I'm definitely never going to watch anything pertaining to it. I'm going to trust everyone that's purely disgusted on it. I don't want to feel uncomfortable with that. I know I even talked about my previous podcast episode. People are uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. But there are certain things we all naturally avoid, and that is stuff that involves prepubescent girls. So let's just stick with that. Let's avoid that. I think there are very strict boundaries that we know we're all majority of us will be uncomfortable with and need to call it out, and hopefully we maintain our dignity and morality. But going back, oh man, where did I even go with this? Okay, so I started on the going back to the whole idea of the autistic Lost Boys compound. Let's just call it that, because predominantly boys are really the ones with autism, and it probably as a facility for cohabitation, it would probably work best, I would imagine, with just guys living there. There could always be another facility for girls. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I think it would require some more pondering, and I think that's a fair assessment. That I'm not going to jump on a hot take on that one because I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm not trying to be chauvinist. I'm not sure. I just realized I haven't thought of it because I've been thinking, the primary guys that are autistic are guys, and I say guys like it. No, not being. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's definitely a possibility. The issue, it's like, hey, how do you fund this? And my main concept was, because you're getting those jobs, you'll take a percentage of, whatever. If they get a high salary, take a percentage of the salary, kind of like a headhunter, or just charge a flat rate of living in the facility and offer the services. But it's like, can you work with them as I guess the word would be their caretaker in a sense, and also have maybe not necessarily power of attorney, but what's with a will, like a trust, set up a trust in a sense that you have these certain parameters that you're supposed to be helping them physically and financially. So physically, you're offering them housing, you're offering them food, you're offering cleaning services, and then also so financially, you're making sure that money is being put aside for the future. So that way, because obviously, like I mentioned, you're going to age out. Like you don't want to be 90 years old in this facility. When you get to a certain age, you're going to require certain services because of your age. Whether it's, I worked as a caregiver actually for a short period of time, very rewarding job. But at a certain point, you need more physical attention and taking care of yourself. Let's just put it that way without getting too detailed at this time. And kind of thinking back, oh yeah, I was getting onto I was getting onto the idea of medications. Like, I definitely was medicated, because my mom didn't know what, no one knew really what autism was or how to handle, especially because I was Asperger's. I was higher functioning autistic. I was full cool. I just struggled in school. I was mildly hyper, but so there was okay, how do we? I guess my mom just went through a phase. I should probably ask her, just how do we handle this child and their actions? And, they tried medications, but I do remember, and it was a very short period of time. I think it was only a couple months I was even on medications till it was cut off, because I remember the fog of being on, I wish I could remember. I think it was Ritalin or stuff other that was specifically targeted for ADD, ADHD, whatever. I remember the fog, and I remember the suicidal thoughts and tendency. I remember just hating myself. I remember just thinking, I am such a burden. I remember what it would be like for my mom to not have me. How would her life be better if I wasn't around? And that's kind of what I talked about in my first episode, is why it's so important for parents to have their life outside their kids' autism. They need to have their hobbies. They need to have their social circles. They need their own support. They need a life outside their kids' autism. It's great that you're insanely supportive. Your child absolutely needs that. But they also need a parent that is also happy, mentally balanced, and can show what a life is outside autism. At least that's my belief. And it's obviously not going to line up with everyone else. I mean, if it's unreasonable, hit me up and text me, or not text me. I don't have a phone number I'm putting on this. Actually, that'd be kind of amazing if I could do text message. But I do have the email, which is ballisticautisticpod@gmail.com. So, I mean, if you have a story, you find this podcast, I mean, I'd be very interested in hearing your ideas and thoughts. But beyond that, the main question is I'm still running into. So the facility part is doable. The question is retaining. The real key thing is the employment. So the next thing I actually plan on, I'm probably going to be reaching out and figuring out HR people and hiring people. I'm very curious in that aspect if there's a way to build that connection, that relationship between industry and the service that I would love to see happen, and see if I can draw those connections. I want to reach out to others because I know there's definitely guys and gals. Let's not disinclude them, but generally when I say guys, I'm pretty much gender neutral in that aspect, despite it being guys. Anyway, it would be interesting to see, what their history or what their insight and knowledge is pertaining to hiring process, what the industry is looking for, how interested they are in people who have autism on the spectrum being hired, what that looks like. Because I mean, just knowing that the one aspect of just the facility, which would be like a caregiving facility, knowing that part's real, it just kind of makes it more real, more like this isn't just a dream or a fantasy, that this could be a potential. I don't want to call it a moneymaker because I don't know, besides hiring people from the outside, because realistically, there's really no intent to make money other than managing small aspect of it. So like obviously there needs to be some sort of board, because I know with caregiving facility you have some sort of board to make sure that it's kept on the up and up. Although like the facility when I did the caregiving, it was very questionable. I mean, God, there was fleas. We had such an infestation of fleas. It was like I would walk through the hall, I could look down on my scrubs, and I would see 5 fleas on my legs. It was ridiculous because the animals in a couple, actually like 3 tenants who had cats, one had dog, and they didn't have flea treatments, and so the whole facility was infested with fleas. And by the time I left, it was still infested with fleas. It sucked. I have crazy stories with that one. But going back to it, just knowing that the facility is possible and knowing that there could be a potential outcome down the line, I wish there was a way to figure out how long it's something like this, because I just know this would benefit so many people. But this is real. I mean, at least kind of. So we'll figure. I'm gonna just keep poking and prodding with that. But yeah, going back to my being medicated, I keep going in loops. I should really write show notes. I remember the fog, and I had only one kind of suicidal attempt. And I remember very, very distinctly because I was just at that point where those thoughts were continually running through my head. And those never really stopped, at least not until late high school. Yeah, I would say at least till high school. They were kind of there through middle school, but they dissolved, I should say, or I would say dissolved by the time I was in high school. Because I was really more self-accepting of having autism by the time I was in middle school. It's like, oh, it is what it is, and I was getting the help because of the programs I was in. But going back to my, because I'm like 7-ish, 8-ish, because we're talking about 2nd, 3rd grade when time figuring out what I have. Being a 7-year-old, being suicidal, or at least not even knowing what that is at the time, but looking back, you're like, oh, you were suicidal again, because I had a genuine one attempt. I just remember we're going into the grocery store. We're crossing the street, and I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to hurt my mom anymore. I'm obviously I'm not a good kid. That's what's going in my head. I'm not a good kid. I cause all these problems. I mess up. I screw up all the time. And just the constant hate. And it's not like my mom wasn't loving. She'd always be loving and caring. I mean, beyond a doubt, if I had to give her a grade, I'd give her an A-, because there's a couple things with her anger issues. She could definitely, that's the ballistic side of me. Actually, both of my parents definitely had very mild manner, and then just every now and then, just pop. but for the most part, insanely great parents. I mean, still insanely supportive to this day. But I just remember going to the grocery store, walking up, we're starting to cross, and I'm just kind of behind because she's walking in front of me. She's in a rush, and she just kind of, as we're crossing, I noticed this big truck. I mean, at least to me, it was a big truck. I mean, it could have been a little tiny Toyota Tacoma, but when you're like 2 foot nothing, everything looks ginormous. And, I just kind of noticed he's not really paying attention. My mom kind of let go for whatever reason, and I just kind of stopped. I was like, oh, I could end it right here. And I don't think he even noticed. I don't even think it was within that brief time. I was like, I'm just gonna wait here. I'm gonna let this truck run me over, and I'm gonna die. And so I was ready. I remember those feelings. I look back, it's like they're not there. They don't really have an effect on me today, but I can reflect on them and look back like they were there. They were real. That's why I'm definitely not an advocate for pushing or recommending parents to medications, because I truly believe a lot of our emotional and behavioral aspects of being autistic can be helped with proper therapy and therapeutic tools and behavioral tools. But fortunately, at that time, my mom she turned around and she just, I don't know, she really, I think she kind of remembers, but she was able to turn around, grab me, pull me. I remember her yanking me back towards her and getting mad. I don't really remember much after that. I do remember her being really upset. Like, I don't remember it's because of what I was doing. I don't even know if she even really truly recognized what was happening, why it was happening, what was going through my mind. I don't know if I even communicated, because there was different times I would shut down, and I definitely had problems with shutting down growing up. Up until high school, I would say. I would definitely have those episodes, like a lot of probably young kids growing up autistic, where just you don't know how to handle the world, so you want to detach yourself from it. So you shut down. You don't want to hear anything. You don't want to react to anything. You don't want to say anything. You don't want to feel anything, because everything at that moment, that overstimulation, that's what when those talk about overloading, that overload of emotions, you don't know what to do with it, so you do nothing. And it's so hard to come out of that. I definitely remember those episodes. And I even remember the times, and I think there's probably some can attest to this, where you want to punish yourself because you know you're being a burden. And so you hit yourself. I would hit myself if I'm having a hard time with a book report. Usually, oddly enough, it was my writing assignments or history assignments when I had to write essays and stuff. That was my biggest challenge, just finding the words, even though eventually writing became my biggest tool and expressing myself. I did a lot of writing as a kid. I did a lot of poetry and journals. I think my mom even still has some of them. Or she gave it to me. I probably threw them out. I'm not very sentimental in general. I don't usually I like focusing on the now, but now it's almost a small regret. I try not to live with regrets, but I would say it definitely would be interesting, but I'm not going to regret not having them. But it would be interesting to see those. What I had written down, and I know most of it probably was just sad and pathetic. I guess maybe pathetic is a little harsh on myself, but just sad and a time of remorse of my abilities, because my inability to know what is going on internally. Obviously, being diagnosed with autism really did help, because by 6th, 7th grade, I definitely came more to terms with who I was, how I was. And that made a big difference. And then getting in that program in middle school really helped. Being around those that were all, because it was great, because the program I was in, it was a mixture of all the grades. So you had 7th through high schoolers, so seniors. And because we're kind of on that team together, because we have an understanding of each other, even though, you might clash, because, personalities clash. That's what happens. But having that, what's your team? What's the other word I'm trying to think of? But anyway, just having that ability to have camaraderie, found it. The camaraderie of those that know your struggle was so vital, which is why I really love the idea of starting a facility, of having those like-minded that can build that camaraderie, build that tribe of those that can help each other. That's kind of the overall main point. So, I don't know. I just kind of came onto this one today, just kind of like, oh, there's some cool things going on in my mind, and And I've been in a lot of pain today. I have like dental thing going on. I have to get my wisdom teeth pulled. I'm not looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to the money that's going to cost me. And yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm just trying with these little podcast episodes. Anyway, nothing too crazy, unexciting. But no. So, I'm going to keep on keeping on and do my thing. And so, anyway, if you love today's episode, please share it and subscribe to my podcast. If you didn't like it, share it with a frenemy. See how they like it. They'll probably wonder why. Hey, why are you sharing this with me? Do you like me? Don't like me? You'll find out. Anyway, peace out, everyone.